Can you share what you look for, lessons learned on finding property management agency? How would you do that if you decide to invest in Abu Dhabi? I don't know if I'm looking in Abu Dhabi right now. More Dubai. It's the same. It's just you look at the numbers, you look at the RV ratios, you try to go back and look at the historic prices adjusted for inflation. But it really starts with your cash flow and kind of reverse engineering it from there. And then if you've got a good macro theme, that's even better. Like Dubai, in my opinion, has a really strong macro theme. Then as far as, so that's regardless of what country I'm looking at, that's first thing. You're just looking at the numbers. You're looking at the cash flow. You're looking at the prices adjusted for inflation, the price to income ratios, same stuff I'd look for here in the United States. As far as property management companies, that's your biggest problem. That's because, see, here's the issue with property management. It's a terrible business. If you think about their business model and you actually just do the math, you come to the conclusion that if they're charging 8 to 10% of the gross rents received, then they're only bringing in enough money to cover their expenses. So the only way that they can actually make profit is if they rip you off. And I'm not saying that all property management companies are bad guys or have malicious intent or don't have or aren't ethical. I just don't think when they go into starting a property management company, I honestly don't think they really work through the numbers. Like they don't sit down to think about what they're doing, because most property managers that I've met in my life that have property management companies, that was their first business. And they kind of build the monster. And then 2 or 3 years later, after they've got 1,000 properties or 500 properties under management, they look around and be like, oh my gosh, I just created a ball and chain. I just dug myself a hole that I can't really get out of, and I'm screwed. I got problems here. So that's why whenever I look for a property management company, I always want to go into their office, and I don't ask normal questions. I ask questions like, oh, do you own the building here, or are you just leasing this 5,000 square feet? Oh, you're leasing. Oh, okay. So then on my little pad, I just write down monthly rent, $5,000. Like, oh, well, how many employees do you have? Oh, we've got 15. Okay, great. 15 employees, average annual salary, let's say 35 grand. You can just reverse engineer it to figure out how much their monthly nut is for payroll and their office lease. And then, you throw on another however many percent for miscellaneous and everything else that you've got in it. And then you just say, okay, well, how many properties are you managing? Oh, we're managing 500. Okay, fantastic. Where are they? Oh, they're in these areas. And you just think in your back of your mind, okay, well, it's about, on average, probably about $1,500 a month in rent or $1,200 a month in rent, whatever. And then you're like, okay, then how much are you guys charging? Oh, we're only charging 8% management fee. So like, okay, well, their monthly nut is 40 grand. I'm just throwing these numbers out there. Their monthly nut is 40 grand. They're managing 500 properties. And at 8% of the gross, assuming that their average rent is about $1,500, let's say they're only bringing in 35 grand. So you're like, okay, well, that's a $5,000 deficit per month. So where is the extra 5,000 going to come from? Ding, ding, ding. It comes from maintenance fees. So they are incentivized to create maintenance that doesn't exist. And they're incentivized to wildly overcharge you. So your hot water heater breaks down And if you had someone install it yourself and get one from Home Depot, you're looking at, let's say, $1,000. But now all of a sudden your property management says, oh, you got to do it. You got to do it quick. The renter's complaining and they don't have any hot water and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh yeah, fix it fast. Just any price. How much is it? Oh, it's $2,500, but we got you a deal. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, you just overpaid by $1,500. You see? So my point is, if you go in there and figure out their business model really quick, which is easy to do, I just walked you guys through it here in 5 minutes or whatever. And then you can tell if they're actually making profit by doing things that aren't screwing you over. So your incentives are aligned. What you'll find with most property management companies is your incentives and their incentives are completely the opposite. So that's why most often when I'm selecting a property management company, I actually choose the one that has the highest fees as far as charging me, as far as what they take out of my monthly rent, because I know they're profitable just on that, and they don't have to screw me over on the back end just to survive, right? So that's, I think, the best advice I can give you on property management companies. And then just keep in mind, I mean, you're going to have to kiss a lot of frogs. You just are. And that's why when I've been looking at Dubai, it's even more interesting because they have so many huge residential buildings where you could go in and you could buy a lot of inventory for, you could drop 20 million in like one building. That's pretty good because you can get a lot of units. And then the more you can consolidate those units, the more you can consolidate the property management, the easier your life is going to be. And that's why, if you guys watch my interview with Ken McElroy, my good buddy who does all of Robert Kiyosaki's real estate investing, that's where they've just made a ton of money, is in multifamily, because they'll buy an apartment complex that has, whatever, 200, 300, 500 doors, and they can consolidate that property management and make it far more efficient. And instead of turning it into instead of it being a negative, they actually turn it into a positive and therefore an edge.